Hi, welcome again. In this section, we are going to talk about the iterations for faster performance. In the previous section, we have seen how to work with the control flow logics and control the program flow. Iterations also favor the program progress significantly. Python provides different types of iterations to use and reduce the complexity of the computer program logic. Then let us see what are iterators in Python. Iterator in Python is simply an object that can be iterated upon. An object which will return data one element at a time. So iterators in Python can be implemented using different types of loops along with the help of sequence type elements like lists, tuples, strings, dictionaries, etc. Here you can see the main iterators in Python: while loop, for loop, nested loop with the while and for, definite and indefinite loops, finite and infinite loops, loops with control flow logics like if else, if, else if, and else. So let us begin our practical work starting with the while loop. So here you can see the flowchart and the general format of the while loop. If you look at the general format, the reserved word while begins with the while statement. The condition determines whether the body will be executed or not, and a colon must follow the condition. And the block is a block of one or more statements to be executed as long as the condition is true. As a block, all the statements that comprise the block must be indented one level deeper than the line that begins the while statement. Here you can see. And what we mean to say is the block technically is a part of the while statement. And if you look at the flowchart, here you can see that initially we have a condition on control variable, and before checking the condition on the control variable, we need to initialize the status of the control variable. Okay, so here we need to initialize the status of the control variable before we enter into the while loop. Okay, once you enter the while loop, the condition will be checked. If the condition is true, then evaluate the statements inside the while loop. Means the block of the while loop will be evaluated. After the block of the while loop has been evaluated, we need to change the status of the control variable. So inside the block itself, so please listen carefully, inside the block itself we need to change the status of control variable. So changing the status of the control variable is also a part of the while block. Okay, it is also a part of the while block. So once we change the status of control variable, then the control variable status will be changed in the condition. Again, we are checking for the condition, means again the control flow will check for the condition on control variable, means updated control variable. Okay, because we are changing the status of control variable inside the block, and we are passing the same control variable into the condition. So once again the control flow will check the condition on the updated control variable. Okay, again if the condition is true, then it will go inside the body of the while loop and do the useful work. If the condition is false, then it will come out of the while loop and it will end the loop, and the control flow will come out of the loop and it will stand on the normal program line, means the rest of the programming lines below the while loop. Okay, so let us see practically how it works. So here look at the console. Suppose if we have a program like print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4 and print 5. So here we have used print statement 5 times to print the numbers from 1 to 5. The same can be seen here. So print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5. So how will you execute and print 5 numbers without using the print statement 5 times? The answer is with the help of while loop and for loop. So here we are illustrating the use of while loop. Okay, here is the program for that one. So as per our while loop definition, we need to initialize the counter. So here we are initializing count is equal to 1, and then while statement, the reserved keyword while begins the while loop, and then the condition while condition. Okay, count is less than or equal to 5. The condition is like a question, should we continue? Okay, count is less than or equal to 5. If this condition is true, then print count, just printing the number, okay, or count, and then we are updating the count. Look at here inside the body of the while loop. This is the body of the while loop. Look at the indentation level. Okay, count is equal to count plus 1. So this is nothing but increment the counter or changing the status of the control variable. Either we can increment or we can decrement. Okay, the best word is changing the status of the control variable either in forward direction or in backward direction. Forward means increment and backward means decrement. Okay, or decrease the variable value. So here we are increasing the variable count value once at a time. So count is equal to count plus 1. So let us select this cell. So in Spider, if you want to insert a cell just after the code lines, means the lines of code, insert hash and then 2 percentage symbols. So it will make the codes of lines above this command as cell, okay, one individual cell. So the same can be seen here. Use, so look at here, use hash percentage to create cells, and then to run the cell we need to use control plus return, means control plus enter. If you use shift plus enter, the control flow or the interpreter will run the current cell and go to the next one. If you don't want to go to the next cell like this, currently I am in this cell, look at the highlight, the change in color, okay, in this cell. If I use shift plus enter, this cell will be run and then it will move to the next cell, okay. So here it is the next cell. So let us run this cell. So remember the shortcut key control plus enter or shift plus enter, okay. Let us use the control plus enter and then run the code, control plus enter. So look at here, all the numbers have been displayed, 1 2 3 4 5. So we have replaced 5 print statements with a single print statement with the help of while loop. Assume that you need to print for 100 or 1000 times. Is it possible to write print statement 100 or 1000 times? Of course possible, but the length of the program increases and it may not be a feasible one, and it may not look in professional code, okay, look as a professional code. Let us check the program with the count is equal to 6 instead of 5 and see what happens. So here the count is 6 instead of 1, okay. So if you look at the while loop condition, the count is less than or equal to 5. Here the condition is the count should be less than or equal to 5, but initial count value is 6. So what happens, can you guess? Yes, obviously this condition becomes false and the block of the while loop will not be evaluated, okay. Let us run this cell, because I have made each single program snippets as cells, okay. Look at here, this program code as one cell, this program code as one cell, and similarly the small program code snippets as a cell, okay. So let us run this cell. So look at here, we got no output because initially the condition itself is false. When the condition is false, the control flow will come out of the loop and it will not evaluate the body of the while loop. So in order for the while loop to execute or while loop body to be evaluated, the condition must be true. As long as the condition is true, the body of the while loop will be evaluated, otherwise no. So this process of executing the same section of code over and over as long as the condition is true is known as the iteration or looping. So here in our case, in the first example, count is equal to 1 and the condition is count is less than or equal to 5, and we are printing the count value and then we are increasing the count variable one at a time. Okay, count is equal to count plus 1. So when the count value reaches 5, still the condition remains true. When the count value becomes 6, 6 cannot be less than or equal to 5, the condition becomes false, hence the loop control flow will exit from the loop. So this is how the while loop operates and works in program. Here we can see, except for the reserved word while, instead of if, while statements look identical to if statements. So sometimes beginning programmers confuse the two and accidentally type if and they mean while, or vice versa. It can be easily seen with the working flow of while loop through the flow diagram. So let us see the flow diagram for the first example we have seen in the beginning, means for this program. Flow diagram, you can see initially we have set count equal to 1, and then we are using the while loop, and the test expression means the condition is count less than or equal to 5. If this condition is true, print the count's value, next increment the count's value, and the incremented count value will be again passed to the while loop condition. Again the condition will be checked. If it is true, again it will print the count's value and increment the count's value. This process keep on repeated until the condition becomes false. When the condition becomes false, when the incremented value becomes 6, and when the 6 is passed to the while loop condition, then 6 is not equal to or greater less than or equal to 5. This condition will be checked whether the 6 is less than or equal to 5. No, 6 is obviously greater than 5. Okay, it is not equal to 5 also, right? So when this condition becomes false because of the updated count value, that is 6, then condition becomes false. Once the while loop condition becomes false, the interpreter will come out of the loop, means it will exit the loop and it will enter into the normal program lines, means the remaining program lines. So remaining program lines means here you can see remaining program lines means out of the loop. That's it, simply can say out of the loop. Okay, so this is the initial program lines. Okay, there is no loop. So here we must be very careful in while loop or iterations, any of the iterations, the control variable, the changing the status of the control variable is very important. Okay, so here instead of this condition, means instead of the expression, we can directly use true or false statements or expressions, boolean expressions, as control variables. As long as the condition is true, run the body of the while loop or evaluate the body of the while loop. Once the condition becomes false, then exit the while loop body. Okay, exit from the while loop. So we will see that later in our course. So let us see one more example with the compound boolean expression with the while if and if else statements. So here is the simple program, and this code is used to count the number of correct entries of y, capital Y or small y, and the count is counted from 0, and the user continues to enter the capital Y or small y. Each time when the user enters capital Y or small y, the count will be incremented. Okay, the correct value of y or small y. When the user enters capital N or small n, then the program will terminate and the correct entries of the capital Y or small y will be displayed. So in order to do that, we need to initialize the two variables. Okay, one is the count value and another one is the entry of the initial variable, that is capital Y. So while you are using the compound boolean expression, while entry is not equal to n, initially it should not be n, right? And entry should not be equal to small n also. N means either capital N or small n. But in program flow, we cannot use single n, either capital N or small n alone. We need to check for both. Okay, that's why we are using the compound boolean expression and with the help of AND operator. Entry if it is not equal to n, and entry if it is not equal to n, then evaluate the body of the while loop. Inside the body of the while loop, initially we are printing the count value to see what is the count value, initial count value, and then we are getting the user input using the variable entry, and then we are checking if the entry is equal to y or if the entry is equal to small y. So look at here, we are using compound or variable, sorry, or operator. Okay, compound boolean expression or instead of AND, because the user may enter either capital Y or small y and it has to be counted. Okay, so inside the if block we are updating count is equal to count plus 1 once the user enters capital Y or small y, and we are using else if statement instead of else, because we know else is an optional part and we cannot put condition in the else part. In front of the else statement, we can put the condition in the body of the else part as another if else statement or another if condition. We can put if conditions or the control flows inside the else part but not in front of the else part. That's why we are using the else if statement. Else if, so as we know that else colon and below means inside the else part we can put the if part or one more if else condition. So we have seen how the else if works, so I don't want to talk more on this right now. So look at here, else if entry is not equal to n and entry is not equal to small n, then print entry is not a valid choice. If the user enters capital N or small n, then that will be printed as entry is not a valid choice. Okay, this is the simple program. If condition will evaluate whether the user entered a correct value of y or not, else if will check whether the user entered y or n. Okay, if the entry is n, then print entry is not a valid choice. If the user enters y, correct value, that is y or small y, then count the variable count is equal to count plus 1 and update the count. So as long as the user enters capital Y or small y, the body of the while loop will be evaluated. As soon as the user enters capital N or small n, then the condition becomes false. Okay, as soon as the user enters capital N or small n, look at here, in the while condition we have entry is equal to capital N and entry is equal to small n. Entry is not equal to capital N and entry is not equal to small n. So when the user enters capital N, this condition becomes false. N is not equal to n. Yes, n is equal to n, but we are using not equal to. Hence, when the user enters capital N, the first test expression becomes false. When the user enters small n, the second sub expression becomes false. When either one of the sub expression becomes false, the AND statement results false. Okay, the compound boolean expression AND becomes false. When the while loop becomes false, the control flow will come out of the loop. Let us run the program. Control plus enter. Let us enter as per our program requirement. Initially the condition is true because initial value of the variable entry is nothing but y. Y is not equal to n, right? Yes, y is obviously not equal to n, and capital Y is not equal to small n. This condition is true, and the second sub expression is also true. Both the sub expressions are true, and the AND compound boolean expression is true, and the body of the while loop is running. Okay, so now our job is to enter the correct variable value, that is capital Y or small y. Let us enter capital Y now. So shift and then press Y. Okay, now look at here, the count value is 1 because count has been incremented from count is equal to count plus 1 because we have entered capital Y. So this condition becomes true here, or because we are using the compound boolean expression or, means compound boolean operator or, when the first sub expression becomes true, or operator will ignore the second sub expression. Okay, the total expression becomes true and the count will be incremented from 0 to 1. Count is equal to count plus 1, 0 plus 1. Okay, that has been displayed here. Again, when the if condition is true, it will not move to the else if condition. Okay, have you remember this? Okay, if the condition in front of the else part, means if the else part condition is true, it will not move, control flow will not move to the else if part. Only if the condition of the if part becomes false, then control flow will move to the else if part. Okay, but here the condition of the if part is true, so that the control flow will not move to the else if part. Okay, again count is equal to count plus 1. Again we are inside the while loop only. Okay, Again entry is equal to input. Again we need to enter either capital Y or small y. Let us enter small y this time. So count is 2. So when we enter the small y in the if part or in the if statement, this sub expression becomes false, whereas entry is equal to small y, the second sub expression becomes true. False or true becomes true because we are using the OR operator. Again the count will be incremented from 1 to 2. Count is equal to count plus 1. Count is equal to 1 plus 1 means 2. Let us enter once again small y 3, capital Y 4, and finally I would like to enter small n. Let us see what happens. Small n. Okay, look at here, the loop control flow has been come out of the loop. Okay, it has exit the loop because when I enter the small n, here look at here, is small n is equal to y? No, obviously this is false. Is small n is equal to small y? No, this sub expression also becomes false. So the if test expression, total test expression becomes false. So there is no question of incrementing the count value. So when the if condition becomes false, it will move to the else if condition. So inside the else if condition, it will check for the condition. So we have entered small n. Look at here, is small n is not equal to n? Small n is not equal to capital N. Yes, this condition becomes true because small n is not equal to capital N. Yes, obviously this condition becomes true, and entry is not equal to small n. Small n is not equal to small n. So what is the meaning here? Small n is equal to small n because we have entered small n only. Okay, but we are reversing the condition. Okay, entry is not equal to n by using not equal to. Hence small n is not equal to n. It is like not operation of the n is equal to n. Okay, so hence this condition becomes true. So when small n is not equal to capital N, and when small n is not equal to small n itself, both the sub expressions becomes false. Okay. Let us see here, entry is not equal to capital N, true. So small n is not equal to capital N. Yes, obviously small n is not equal to capital N. This expression becomes true. What about this expression? Small n is equal to, small n is not equal to small n. Small n is actually equal to small n only, but we are using the reverse statement, that is entry is not equal to n. Small n is not equal to small n. The condition becomes false. So true and false, the total compound boolean and expression becomes false. So when this condition becomes false, the while loop condition becomes false. When the while loop condition becomes false, the control flow will come out of the loop. and this print statement will be printed or displayed only if we enter capital N or small n initially soon after running the code. Okay, soon after running or executing the code. Let us run the code once again. This cell, and this time let us enter capital N and see what happens. So we have entered capital N, the condition becomes false, and hence the control flow has been out of the loop. So here the simple logic is entry is equal to capital N and entry is not equal to capital N and entry is not equal to small n is true if entry is neither capital N or small n. Means the logic capital N is not equal to capital N and or with the small letter small n is not equal to small n becomes false, whereas capital Y is not equal to capital N or small y is not equal to capital N becomes true. So as soon as the user enters y, capital Y or the small y, the program runs and gives the output. When the user enters either capital N or small n, then the condition becomes false and the control flow will exit the loop.